So now get the Arsenal perspective. I've already given you a hint of what Mikel Arteta's thought about some of those key incidents this evening. This from a few moments ago with Juliet Ferrington.
Mikel, you knew it was always going to be difficult, it was going to be tough. You said so before the match, but where do you start with this?
Well, praising my players for the performance and the way we played. And we didn't deserve to lose the match playing in the ground, and then we didn't lose the match because of the clear and obvious decisions. It's embarrassing. It's a disgrace. That's what it is, a disgrace.
Will you be taking this up with PGMOL?
Yeah, we've been taking it for many months. There's so much at stake. We put so many hours. I'm here to represent the football club and to get my team to compete at the highest level. The margins are so small. It's a disgrace. It's embarrassing. That's how I feel. And that's how everybody feels in that room. You cannot imagine the amount of messages that we got to say this cannot continue. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Embarrassing. I defend my players when I have to put there. I defend my job when I have to be there. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. But I have to be here to say it now. It's not acceptable. It's too much at stake.
On the pitch, with the decisions and off the pitch, VAR taking so long, 3 checks before deciding that Anthony Gordon's goal could stand.
And I think you look at the images and I feel, honestly, I don't know how to feel. I'm wasting my time. We are wasting our time. I don't want to be in the hands of people. It's difficult enough to compete against this team that they are a really good team. But the way we play, the way we competed, you cannot continue that. It's embarrassing. It's too much at stake. Again, I repeat myself.
You were very patient. We could see what you were trying to do. You were desperately trying to get that equaliser as well. When you say you've been talking to your players already after the game, what kind of things have they been saying to you?
To praise them for what they do on the pitch. And there are other things that we cannot control. But that obviously affects results, affects momentum, affects confidence. And the consequences are too big. Too big.
Just finally, Martin Odegaard, I know we spoke about him before the match and he's unavailable. Where are you? Where are we with him? How long could he be absent for?
We don't know. We have to assess that. But that's not the topic for now. I already said that he wasn't fit enough to play, and that's another issue.
I know it's been a frustrating time for you, but thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So that from a few minutes ago with our reporter Juliet Ferrington. Mikel Arteta then went into the wider press conference and delivered this verdict.
Mikel, I think the big talking point from that game, apart from the result, obviously, is going to be the goal. What are your views on Newcastle?
Yeah, we have to talk about the result because we have to talk about how the hell this goal stand up, and it's incredible. I feel embarrassed, but I have to be the one now coming here to try to defend the club and please ask for help, because it's an absolute disgrace that this goal is allowed. It's an absolute disgrace.
Why do you think it's a disgrace?
Because it's not a goal. For many reasons, it's not a goal. For more than one reason at least, it's not a goal. And it's too much at stake here. We put so much effort. It's so difficult to compete at this level. And it's an absolute disgrace. Again, I feel embarrassed. I've been more than 20 years in this country, and this is nowhere near the level to describe this as the best league in the world. I am sorry.
Playing devil's advocate, there were 3 checks and the information back from historically.
That makes it even worse. Even worse. It makes it even worse. You just need to see one image, c'est fini. And you have any doubt, you look at the second one, and if this is a goal, okay, that's fine.
They're saying they haven't got camera angles to prove one way or the other.
I don't care, honestly. I don't care what they say. It's the outcome. It's too late. Whatever they say is too late. I don't want to be in the hands of people.
2 referee decisions from the first half that came into focus was the challenge from Kai Havertz, which saw 3 Newcastle players booked, and also the elbow on Jorginho from Bruno in the first half.
And the penalty on Eddie, and there is a lot of things. We can continue. Yeah.
Sorry, did you think the ball was out for the goal? It was a foul, an offside?
But this is really the question, guys. The question is, it's not a goal. It's simple. It's not a goal. Simple.
Sorry, for which one of the reasons?
Sorry?
For which one of the 3 reasons do you not think?
Because for a goal to be allowed, there are certain things prior to that the ball hitting 1 meter from the goal that are not allowed in football. In here, in China, in Japan, in Spain, in Italy, and in Portugal. They are not allowed. That's what happens.
And one there from Jonathan.
Mikel, we've seen lots of VAR mistakes, and then the clubs get an apology afterwards. but apologies no use to you.
Nothing. I have to stand here now and explain. And we lost 3 points today, guys. You know what that means? It's too hard, this league. It's too hard. It's too much at stake. It's embarrassing.
And finally, we'll go to Tom.
How do you now pick the players out? Because obviously they're going to be as frustrated as you are. How do you now...
I have to praise them. It's not in their hands. It's not in their control. I have to praise the players the way they play here and what they did and how much they limit Newcastle to what they did and how much we tried. It's incredible, honestly.
There were some good performances. Williams-Lee was really strong and impressive. You know, we saw Kai Havertz, I think, probably his strongest performance of the season. What did you make?
That's so much. It's incredible the way this guy played with 21 years old, the way they play here, the way they competed against this team, because they're a top team. Incredible. So to get the game out of that like this, it's just, honestly, I feel sick. That's how I feel. I feel sick to be part of this.
Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Raging, Mikel Arteta. What do we make of that, Jamie?
I loved it. I loved the interview, the passion, and that's what the game does to you. And the margins now, at the top end of the Premier League, when you're up against the best team in the world, Manchester City, and that's what they've got to do this season, win the league. They come close last season. And that's a manager who's not just almost frustrated with what he's seen tonight in terms of the decisions. I think it's a manager who knows you can't give that team an inch. So it's almost that at the back of his head as well. People may look at that and think, what part of VAR was he questioning? I think it's the ball out of play when he's talking about the image. But they're the interviews we want to see. I think the Arsenal fans will love that interview. And I would love that if that was my manager showing that type of passion. And it's great for everyone to see how much the game means, not just to Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. Every team up and down the land, this is what football does to you. And yeah, he'll be feeling it tonight, yeah. He'll be feeling really hurt. There'll be a lot of frustration. There'll be a lot of talk about, obviously, those incidents. But he wants to fight for his club.
Let's park the VAR chat. What did you make of his team?
Well, I think Jamie spoke excellently with VAR chat. I know he said avoid that. Let's avoid it. But I don't think his team created enough today to win the game. I think if Mikel Arteta, if you ask him honestly and go, what result would you have wanted today in the context of the game? I think 0-0. But I think Newcastle wanted it more. They created the better chances. And I didn't see enough bite from Arsenal. We didn't mention Saka, we didn't mention Martinelli. We
talked then, Izzy, about Newcastle being stretched, but actually could you say the same about Arsenal right now? Do they have enough if they're going to challenge Manchester City, particularly at the top of the pitch?
I think if you're looking at it that way, I think there needs to be competition behind Saka and Martinelli for when their performance level drops. You see it at Manchester City, and they are the benchmark of, you've got the likes of Grealish, Doku, who can rotate, and Foden, Bernardo, and they've got so many options in the forward line. Alvarez and Haaland. But yeah, of course, that might be the solution in having that target player so that they can adapt their style a little bit.
Yeah. I agree with everything that you said there. I feel like I'm watching a different team. They're more solid, almost stronger defensively, not as fluid, not creating as much chances. But when you talk about centre-forward, have Arsenal got a centre-forward and a goalkeeper who can win you the league? I'm not sure they have. I don't think they have, no. And when you think of vital positions where teams win leagues in both boxes, and right now, I've said this before, it wasn't a mistake as in looking to replace Ramsdale. For me, Ramsdale was not going to win you a league. But the guy he's chosen right now to come in, Raya, is absolutely all over the place.
So the gap was 5 points last season between Arsenal and Manchester City. Do you think the business that they've done is getting them any closer? You're saying it's widening the gap?
I think bringing Declan Rice in improves them. But the goalkeeper-wise, I don't think they've moved the dial. It's almost just like you're not quite sure who you would pick right now. And it just don't seem as fluid. And it's not just about bringing players in. It's the players who were playing absolutely out of their skin last season in terms of like Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard. Those players are just not quite firing this season. The top players, there's no doubt about that.
That's because teams have figured out how to play against them. Last season was Arsenal's breakthrough year where they absolutely dominated opponents. Every time a winger got the ball, you'd expect something exciting to happen. And I'm not saying that their performance levels have dropped. I think teams have figured out how to stifle Arsenal. And what I see with Arsenal is when they get into the final third, what they always look to do is chop back. And I'm like, if you want to win games, you've got to go forward. You've got to attack, take a shot. There was a chance in the first half where we were screaming at the TV, going, shoot. But he's coming back. It's almost like they want to play against the block. It's almost like they want to, and that's their default, is to go, right, we get the team dropped off, and then we start playing. And for me, I think that to take it to the next level, teams are getting more organised, more defensive structure, and Newcastle were the epitome of it today in terms of the way that they stifled Arsenal and played them on the break.
Hugely strong words there from Mikel Arteta. I counted 6 embarrassings, 3 it's a disgrace. What do you think?
Well, I totally agree with all the managers who, through the VARs and through the decisions, what's happening, losing games. You heard him say there, there's too much at stake. There's too much at stake for these managers and for these players, what they're working on week in, week out, for them to go to a game on a Saturday and then lose a game in that manner. And he's not giving Newcastle credit, because Newcastle are a great team. You go up there, it's going to be tough. Like I said, I would have taken 0-0 if we didn't lose in this kind of circumstances. But I'm so pleased just to hear him saying it, because it does anger you. It angers the fans. It's just not acceptable now. I can't sit here. I'm still thinking about the ball, what I can see out, and think to myself, why give it instead of not give it when you haven't got a conclusive Premier League, haven't got a conclusive camera to show us that ball is touching the line. But then what we can see is that the ball's out, but they're going to give the goal. Just that, not even with a push in the back. I'm pleased my manager's speaking like that. I'm delighted for him.
One goal, one enormous talking point, which we'll get into very quickly. But just first of all, your reaction to those very strong words from Mikel Arteta. I
understand his frustration. I understand everybody's frustration with certain decisions, what's happening at the moment. And I think that one of the things that stick out more than anything else for me is what's at stake. And obviously he's trying to go to win the Premier League. There's teams who are trying to stave off relegation. There's teams who's trying to, just trying to achieve. And you're losing games in situations where you believe you shouldn't be. And you could see his frustration. I'm frustrated as well, to be honest. But what can you do? What can you do? That's what he's probably saying there.
Let's get into it then. Shay, you're both going to have your say, so just bide your time. First of all, ball out of play or not for you?
Well, the angle we've got, Steve, it looks out of play. I mean, that's the thing. But it's inconclusive because the camera angle isn't perfectly on the line. So part of the ball can still be in play. And if that's the case, then it's not out of play. So I'm sort of contradicting myself here at this point. But there is an angle when there's a still on the line that it looks out of play. And you'll see it from this angle better. When we freeze it, and we magnify it, it looks out of play. To the naked eye, now, to me, that looks out of play. But if you have got a camera running right along the end line, part of the ball could still be in play. And I think that's why they couldn't, even the VAR couldn't say it's definitely 100% out of play, because they haven't got the right angle.
The thing with that, though, Shay, is that why it's so frustrating for me and very hard to take is because we haven't got a conclusive angle to show that it may be crossing the line, the circumference of the ball might be crossing the line. So why would you, from what you can see, that the ball is out, would you still not give that ball as out? That's what I can't understand.
OK. Well, we're going to talk to Dermot Gallagher in a moment. First of all, is this potentially a foul by Joe Linton, Righty?
Well, from what we can see here, he's got 2 hands on his back. I do believe that Joe Linton, for me, has got his 2 hands on his back, and I feel that Gabriel probably could head that if he's not impeded. That's the only thing I can look at it and see. And as to why I wouldn't give that goal was he impeded? And I think he was. I think he was fouled.
Well, I think there's a physicality to the game as well. And I do believe one ref would say it's not a foul, and one ref would say it isn't a foul. So it's all about the VAR didn't think it was strong enough to say rule the goal out because he thinks it's a foul, or come and look at it at least. That's another thing you have to ask the question. It took over 4 minutes for the goal to be given. Why can't the referee sure that will go to the screen and talk him through with the VAR all the different decisions on that particular goal?
Oh, let's talk to our referee, the former Premier League official, Dermot Gallagher. Dermot, right, 3 sections here. First of all, ball out of play. Discuss.
The most difficult of the 3, I think, Steve, because the law says the whole of the ball has to be over the whole of the line. Righty says he thinks it is. Shay's not sure. I described it earlier, when there's a corner taken, it's out the quadrant, I think, but it says part of it's overhanging. The argument is here, is it overhanging? Unfortunately, Righty makes a good point. He says, you know, it looks over the line, but they have to be convinced. It's a bit like offside. You can't give a player offside unless you're convinced he's offside. They can't give the ball out of play unless they're convinced the ball is 100% out of play. So because they haven't got the line across, which is not possible at the moment, they have to go with what they've got. And with what they've got, they felt that there's part of the ball overhanging the line. So therefore they play on.
So Dermot, we're dealing with guesswork. The Premier League's dealing with guesswork, because that's guessing.
Well, what we're dealing with, right, is we're dealing with something we haven't got conclusive. And
what we can see right here, Derm, is that conclusively from our angle here is out.
But when you look across that line, Righty, which the assistant would, don't forget the assistant would be smack on that line looking across. If he sees any part of that ball overhanging the line, he has to allow play to continue. And I think I go back to that when I say about the corner quadrant, because that's the one I always look at and think, why are they allowed to take it there? That's very, very similar. You know, the whole of the ball has to be over the whole of the line. I know it's difficult, but unless they're convinced 100% it's over the line, they can't give it out.
OK. Point 2. Did Arsenal have a case for a foul by Joe Linton?
I said earlier, Steve, of the 3 points, I think this is the easiest one, and it could be wrapped up here because one's inconclusive, the other's not possible to see. With this, for me, I mean, Shay makes a great point. One referee would say yes, one referee would say no. I fall into the yes camp. You know, I think it's a foul. Stuart Atwell didn't think it's a foul. That's the difference. The VAR didn't think there was enough contact to overrule the referee. So therefore, the on-field decision stood.
So on the back of that, Dermot, you know it takes over 4 minutes for the whole sort of conclusion to come. Is it not worth Stuart Atwell having a little jog over just to the screen and actually talking him through the whole thing bit by bit, because there's so much to go through? In other words, because he's standing in the middle of the pitch just fending players off for 4 minutes. Surely to get the right decision, and if he thinks, look at the push, or if it's a push or not a push, I still think I'll stick with my on-field decision because I've seen it again now in the replay. Is that not easier to work out?
I think sitting here, now Shay, it is, there's no doubt about that. But when you look at it, if you walk it through like they did, the first thing is checking the ball's over the line. Well, he looked at that, he looked at that, looked at that. That's nothing to do with the referee. Is the ball in or out? They then check the push. Is it a push? They looked at it, looked at it, looked at it. The VAR felt that it wasn't enough to send a referee to the screen. And then the third is the offside, which they looked at for a long, long time, but couldn't find the lines to decide where the ball was when it struck Joe Linton to come down. There the ball's obscured, so they have no start point. And that's the problem. You need a start point to get to a conclusion. You can see here there's no start point because they don't know where the ball is. So they don't know where the ball is.
They're guessing again then, Dermot, aren't they?
Well, what they have to do, they're not guessing because they haven't guessed, Shay. What they've said, they can't make that decision. So they default back to the assistant who says, not offside. The interesting thing is, Shay, with these 3 decisions, I know it doesn't make it right, but the on-field decision was ball in play. The on-field decision was no foul, and the on-field decision was no offside. Yeah. So we've actually ended up, without technology, with the same result anyhow.
Well, ideally, then, just quickly, then don't use it. Let's just go with the on-field, because like the fact that you've got all this technology and it's showing certain things that for me was quite conclusive. I'd say, especially the foul, then don't use it, because like let's just go with the on-field decision then.
Yeah.
Well, let's just do that, because it seems to me it's a waste of time otherwise.
Well, I think the problem, Righty, with the second one, I mean, Shay made a great point. One referee yes, one referee no. As I said, I think it's a foul. Other referees don't. And the problem there is that once they've got technology and the referee makes that on-field decision, says, I've seen the contact, I don't think it's enough to give a foul. The VAR looks at it and he sees what the referee says, so he doesn't overrule him because he doesn't think it's enough to overrule him.
Dermot, thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Dermot.
So many turning points, but a big win for Newcastle.
To speak to us now. Congratulations, Eddie, on what feels like a really big win. How would you sum it up?
Yeah, tough game. Really tough game, but massive win. Full credit to the players for what they gave today. I thought that was a really battling performance. I thought Arsenal were good. I thought we were good, but maybe not in the ways that we're both known. It was sort of a real midfield scrap. A lot of physicality, a lot of duels, and thankfully we came out on top.
What was key to it, do you think, for you? And what were you concerned about before the game?
Well, I think just the way we defended generally. I thought our open play shape defensively was very good. I think it has to be against a team as good as Arsenal. They've got obvious attacking threats. I thought we nullified them We didn't really give them many clear-cut chances today. And then I always felt we were in the game the other way. I think we have players that can hurt teams as well in different ways. And we've had to stay in the game. We did. And then we got the goal.
Eddie, I mentioned that I felt the game was almost like a throwback. Lots of challenges, not the football that you normally associate with, the modern game, as people like to say. I mean, what do you think the reason was that, for yourselves and Arsenal?
Yes, maybe not the game we expected it to be, in terms of the style from both teams. But I think it was clear early in the game that that's how it was going to be. So as you say, a lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of duels, like the midfield battle was so important. We had to try and stay in the game in that way. And I thought Joelinton was huge in there for us. I thought all three midfielders really helped us. And when you don't concede, you're always in a game. So I don't think it's probably the style that either team really wanted. It wasn't the game that maybe we prepared for. But then you need to show different sides of your game to win. And I think we've got that in the group at the moment.
Eddie, the match winner, Anthony Gordon's been outstanding this season. And I think it's fair to say he took a little bit of time to settle last season when he joined halfway through the season. What's been the big difference with him this season?
Well, I think he's got used to what's expected of him. I think he had a sort of a sight of that at the end of last season, 4 or 5 months under us, and what we expect him to do. I think he came back a lot fitter from the Euros. That was a really successful campaign for him. I think that helped boost his confidence. And as you say, this season, I think he's been brilliant for us. And I think again today he showed his versatility. So he started wide left, he then went up front, and that's where he got the goal.
Eddie, your players seem to celebrate tackles as much as they celebrate goals. How much pleasure does that give you to see as a manager?
Well, I think that's just a marker of our mentality at the moment and our willingness to do everything we can to try and win. So there was a really good feeling in the stadium. The crowd were responding to our out of possession work, and the players in tune were realising how important every duel was, every tackle was. And as I said earlier, you don't win these games unless you compete. You have to compete against Arsenal's technical players and try and take their game away from them, and they were trying to take our game away from us, and that's what made it the game that it was. But I'm just really, really proud because we're stretched at the moment. We've got injuries, but the players stepped up and gave even more.
You certainly are. And you're fighting on 3 fronts right now, the FA Cup to throw in after Christmas as well, Eddie. Does it surprise you, or does this group continue to surprise you about the levels they are able to reach in so many games?
I don't think it surprises me because I see the character and the mentality and the attitude that they display on a daily basis. I think we've got that consistency within the group. We've got a very level-headed group of players who are committed and want to give everything to try and be successful. Now, the injury situation is a big concern for us. It's a worry. We are competing on lots of fronts, and those games are, at the moment, we seem to be losing a player a game, which, ultimately is probably the big negative from today. But then we need everyone else who is fit and available to step up and give more. And at the moment, we're getting that. So we'll let the dust settle on today's game and see what we've got for Dortmund.
Let me just ask you, Eddie, about a couple of incidents. The Newcastle bench seemed very upset by Kai Havertz's challenge in the first half. Can you tell us more on that?
Yeah, well, we were close to the incident. I felt it was high and potentially dangerous, but I've only seen that with my naked eye. You might tell me differently. Everything looks different with in slow motion. So that was my initial thought. Thought he was probably lucky to get a yellow on that in that situation. And I know there was a lot of yellow cards given in the game. I probably didn't think there had to be. I don't think it was necessarily a dirty game, but there were a few flashpoints.
There was a high arm from Bruno as well just before half-time. He seemed to be getting a little heated. Did you have to try and calm him at all during the interval?
Well, I think one of the big messages at half-time was we need to keep 11 players on the pitch, but not lose our fighting spirit and our desire in those key moments. So it's always a balance, but I thought we kept our heads really well in the game.
And the goal itself, it took 4 minutes and 6 seconds for VAR to check multiple incidents. I'm told that Mikel Arteta, who we haven't actually heard from yet, but I'm told he has said that he thinks it's a disgrace and it's embarrassing that goal was given. I'm sure you have a different perspective on it. Just give us your overall feelings on that period.
Well, we're in the dark, really. We're sort of stood by the side of the pitch, seeing the VAR come up on the screen, but not really, having no pictures. So I'm not avoiding the question, but I haven't seen anything other than the long-term vision that I had at the time, and it looked a good goal. But obviously, everyone else will have a different opinion to me.
And so it's counting the bodies for Wednesday.
Something like that. It's bizarre. I've never sort of been in this situation before where Dan Burns landed on his back today, and he's in a lot of pain in the dressing room. So we don't know how bad that is. But every player at the moment is so important. And look, we go on to the next game. We're not going to make excuses for ourselves, but it's a difficult moment. We wish you well, Eddie. Thanks for joining us. Thank you. And it's, as he said, a huge win for them tonight, Izzy. The question is, I suppose, as stretched as they are, can they keep this going? They've got the 2 games before the international break, and then after that, it feels like it's every 3 days.
I think what I would say on that is, yes, of course, Eddie Howe's got a challenge. But the way that they play is a different question. They play with a high intensity, high press. He's asked a lot of the midfield within their structure. And you look at this guy here, for example, Anthony Gordon, and you think, how long can he sustain that level of physical output week on week, midweek as well, to the level that he's performing at the moment, which is fantastic. But the quicker they get the likes of Harvey Barnes back, because I think he was excellent in that sort of hybrid role with Anthony Gordon, sharing the minutes, if you like, and the level didn't drop when Eddie Howe made changes when he's got a fully fit squad. So I think the challenge will be, can they produce that output week on week?
Stadium. Derek Ray here on the commentary box, joined as always by former England defender Lee Dixon. And it's all about action from the Premier League in this case. It's Arsenal up against Newcastle United.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Looking forward to a bright, lively start in this one. Quick tempo. Who can be the dominant force in the first 20 minutes? They could get the upper hand in this one.
Here are the starters for Arsenal. Bernd Leno stands between the posts. Thomas Partey starts with Granit Xhaka in the centre of the pitch. And leading the line today, Alexandre Lacazette. Saka. Oh, in with a chance! It has to be, surely. Well, he stumped it out of there without much fuss. Partey. Just the challenge that was required. Making excellent progress with the ball at his feet. And a good-looking ball. Not to be this time. Well, it's always a tantalising prospect watching Martin Ødegaard close up. Lee, what do you think we might see from him?
Well, ball possession will be his key. People give him the ball because they know he links the play. You give him the ball, then you make a run, you normally get the ball back, which is very encouraging.
An alert intervention. Might really be able to trouble them here. Well, that takes the wind out of their sails. Great defending. Lacazette. Arsenal struggling to keep the ball. Almiron. Saint-Maximin. Really vital interception here. And with tackling like that, the onus is on the referee to take action potentially. The referee has deemed that to be a bookable offence.
Absolutely, agree with that one.
Thomas. And Lacazette. He made it look simple, really.